Hello, Satya. How are you, my friend? So happy that you accept this call and to share your story with us.
Thank you so much, Ricardo. It's always a pleasure talking to you and glad that you started this new initiative and happy to be here.
Super. See, that the idea, as I told you before, is to experience through different stories, inspire people. I think that people right now are super focused in all the negative things of this virus, and I believe it's time to show different views, different perspective. And in your case, I believe you have a fantastic story. You are right now, in fact, in India. You are from India, and but you have a degree in NYU, New York, and very successful company in some of the most coolest and hottest things right now, that is technology. So, but how you finish on this point, how you start your career. So the idea in this interview is to understand a little bit your story, and then I have a couple of questions that I'm doing to all the people, because at the end of the day, I'm trying to have kind of a match. What are the principles, the things that every single entrepreneurs in this world doesn't care if it's in this industry or the other, or in this country on the other. At the end of the day, we share some values, we share some practice. So thank you, Satya, again for being here, and please tell us your story.
Sure. First, thank you for giving the opportunity to go over the story, right? I think one of the most important pieces of any successful company or any of the successful ventures, or anything for that matter, a lot relies on people. And people is all about the stories that they carry and the experiences that they have had through their lives. So I think it's a great, it's a very, from that perspective, I think this is a great, podcast. So, to give you a little bit of background about, what I've done and, the entire story and the journey till this point of time is, I've been brought up in a family where my father is an entrepreneur, my mother is an entrepreneur, but we never started it off in a very easy format. Both my parents started off, from the ground up, and they learned a lot of experience through that, which I believe is one of the most valuable things that I've taken away, that I take from them every day. So, and I think being born in an entrepreneurial family, you see through the ups and downs of life, and you also see through the ups and downs of how they navigate through these difficult times. So
let me stop 1 second. I love what you said. The other day, one of the person that was in the interview was telling me that this a life of entrepreneurs is not for cardiac person. So you almost die, because it's never a line that you can predict. It's always like this. It's very, very ups and downs, and is in some cases people saw us like crazy people, like, oh, why this guy wants to be in this stress all the time. But in the other hand, I think that the building something that bring value is so exciting, brings so much passion, that I understand why we are in this position. But I can understand in your case, coming from a family that was both entrepreneurs, the kind of things that we need to live with. So it's crazy.
Yeah, and big shoes to fill. Uh, but yeah, so I started off, of course, studying here in India. Did my bachelor's in computer science. I did definitely like technology as a fundamental, but I never fancied the whole programming as a career. So right after my bachelor's in computer science, that was in India, in a very reputable university, which is Anna University, which is one of the oldest universities in the country.
What is the name of the university?
Called Anna University.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's one of the most reputable and one of the oldest universities, in the country. So coming from there, I was also with other students, right, who came in from different parts of the country, both from, I would say, the city environment, and also from the rural environment, which again is another big eye opener, right? So, if you think about it, we all think about opportunities just primarily being in, major cities. But if you look at it, there are a lot of entrepreneurs who also come from not just the city, but, from other, parts which are outside the city. So it was, for me, that was another great experience, getting to know people from other parts of the country, and not necessarily people also from the city itself, which was a big eye opener with regards to how, they were looking at things. The second part of it was definitely, from a programming, capability, which was because I was studying computer science bachelor's. The programming capability also of these individuals are very remarkable. Just so that, to give you a perspective, after my 4 years of university there, right, companies like Microsoft, Google, came from the US. And specifically Microsoft picked about 5-6 people. They all took a flight from Redmond, and flew down from Redmond, Seattle, to India, to Chennai, and they picked up candidates from my university, and they sponsored them. And one happened to be a very good friend of mine who I'm still in touch with today, who came in from a tier 2 city, right? So, and his parents are farmers and agriculturalists.
Wow.
So that definitely, throws a different perspective to you, and makes you believe that, the world that you look at is, you got to open up your eyes, and the opportunities are
No,
not
everywhere. It's true. And one question, before you decide I want to go in, this techie world, when you was a kid, so you always was playing with this technology, or how you get in this world?
So it's funny you're saying this. Even though I have a background in technology, I was not a tech first person. I was more a business first person. I was always looking at opportunities, and I was looking at how you can solve these opportunities. But again, if you look at technology, and just to demystify technology, specifically, if you look at programming is just a combination of different, algorithms, which are basically logic, behind it, right? So a lot of programming is, logic. And, and that's one of the, reasons that I would say, I liked math, for example, and programming is just another version of math. So,
Interesting.
and just to answer your question about, business or technology, I felt technology was a very strong enabler and can help you get new business opportunities. And that is also one of the areas through which I ended up, getting into the tech, field. I was never, I never started off, thinking that I would be in this tech, industry. But you never know where life takes you.
No, of course. But when you were a kid in the school, so you were already thinking or interested in technology, or not yet? Or when you
Again,
were, 14, 15?
yeah. I was more interested, again, in more business opportunities than
Okay,
technology.
okay.
And I realized
So you
that
were okay, got it. So you were more good in math and good in business, and then you understood, you know what, this country, this world is moving in this direction. Let me learn about technology. Very smart, by the way. Okay, and you start realizing that at what point of your life? What age?
I would say, when I was going through engineering during bachelor's, is when I realized it. Hey, don't use it. That's where I realized it, because when I was there in the university, as I said, there were a lot of smart kids who were in computer science and were programming great stuff, but they all lacked business acumen. So I thought that if I could bring in the business acumen, bring in their strong programming capabilities, and if we could both of that together, you could make a great solution. And just so that technology, how I see technology is an enabler. Technology can give you a 10x better solution to current today's problems. So I think that's where I see technology as
Well,
one.
I love your point, because going back, I remember in one of the cases in Harvard School, we studied the case of Blackrock. And in the case of Blackrock, there are guys 100% focused, they are traders, and they were just looking to improve their trades. And they understood we need to build a system. Otherwise, we are not going to be able to understand so much data that is right there. So absolutely, they did exactly the same path, understanding, so going to technology to make better decisions in business. So and then when you jump to NYU, or you were in the university in India, and then what you did when you were out of the university there? You start working, or you immediately jump to NYU?
So the thing is, during my university, right, I tried a few things. So one was real estate.
Oh, wow.
I did a bit of that. Just my family was into it, so I got some capability to to sort of like figure it out, firsthand, being with the family. The second thing was I tried a edutech startup. So again, my family was in the education space, so I understood the space very well. So I was just solving one problem that I felt needs to be solved. So as I said, coming from a reputable university, they were prescribing all textbooks which were written by these very famous authors, and these were authors who were from across the world. So they used very complicated English language in the textbook, but they did not realize the audience in India, in Chennai, were from people were not just from cities, but from also other parts of the country, which where they were not very used to this flamboyant language. So I just took that as a particular problem. What I did was I was able to get some franchisee rights, publication rights of some of the global textbooks, and with the help of my dad, I was able to publish some of these textbooks in a language which was more comfortable for other kids. So
how old were you at this time?
So I was 18, 19.
Wow. This is another thing that all the entrepreneurs and big successful leaders do. They start very young.
Yeah. No, I think, what actually I feel a successful entrepreneur, should be defined is based on also his capability to see problems, right? And see problems and be able to convert them as solutions. Right. So, and yeah, I mean, starting early always gives you, capability to be ahead of the curve. So
100%. So, and then you graduate, and how long do you take until you made the jump to New York?
Yeah. So right after graduation, I think my parents got very tired of me. So they were like, had enough of you.
Go and go to
go learn something new, right? And again, very fortunate to be, in such families where, they're always looking at, how do you open up opportunities, for the kids, right? And also always thinking, what next? So they let me go, to choose whatever I wanted. I chose New York. I got a bunch of different schools. I chose NYU. And to be very honest, I chose NYU not for the school, but for New York. Okay. And there is a big difference, in that, because yes, I do love NYU. So don't get me wrong on that.
Fantastic university. Fantastic.
Yeah. No, I think it's one of the best universities, again, in the country. But I think NYU's experience plus the city itself gives a different perspective. And just for me, New York is just a symbolic way of saying whoever is the best can survive, and others need to go out. And it's a cycle. So I definitely realized that survival of the best is sort of the attitude in New York. And whoever you are in whichever part of the world you are, right? When you come to New York, you start from the beginning. So
I why they said if you can make it in New York, you can make it everywhere.
Exactly.
So And what age do you have when you started in NYU?
So 22.
Wow. So at 22, you already finished your career in computer science and then started the MBA in NYU. And so you finished in 2 years, 1 year. How long was the...
Yeah. So it was supposed to be a 2-year program. Uh, Somehow I managed it to do it in 3 years
Okay.
instead of lesser, because of different reasons. One, I think that was the beginning of my next startup. Uh, so I played along during and this is what happened, right? So I was in the last coursework of NYU on the second year. I had a final thesis that I had to submit, and the final thesis was relatively actually easy, and it was basically telling me that, hey, pick a company, right? Go there, work there, and come back with some of the challenges that you're facing and how you would probably solve it. I got chosen at Thomson and Reuters, and it happened that my office was on Times Square. And so just before I jump into that story, I just want to tell you that before I jumped there, during those 2 years in New York, during the 2 summers, I interned in 2 different companies. One was at SiriusXM, which was the satellite radio company, and the other was at Sony. So, and I was working in the division which was Sony Music. So it was, I had a lot of, partnership that they had with Google and YouTube and all of that. So I was working both in SiriusXM and at Sony. I was working in the business strategy division. And I got a feel of corporate America, right? I felt what it was out there. And when I was given this, challenge of, saying that, okay, your final thesis needs to go to another company, spend another 3 to 5 months, I was not very inclined to do that because I felt that that was, again, another time that I'm going to go to another company. And it was not that I did not enjoy these 2 companies. Both of them were phenomenal companies, but there was definitely a bug to start another company. So, so because of that, I ended up not faring well. So I sort of had to repeat, that coursework again, which pushed it by another 6 to 8 months. But I used the opportunity to sort of go to a lot of these different meetups, went to a lot of these events, met with a lot of entrepreneurs, met with a lot of venture funds.
Networking is another thing that all the key people is always doing. Is a big asset. More people the more people you can learn from, the better.
Right. And I think at least in New York, it's just so diverse. People from all over the world solving all different types of problems. It was just an overload, right? But I think I took some time to sort of narrow down on my idea. And I started off, on the idea to basically, this was just the early days of Slack. So my idea was to centralize communication, workplace communication across different channels into a single dashboard. So today, you get, WhatsApp messages, you get text messages, you get messages on Instagram, you get messages on, you'll get your emails, you get, a chat messaging system that a company would use internally. You would use different, you would use a Zendesk for issue management. So things were coming, to people from different areas. And I wanted to create one single dashboard which had to integrate all of these different,
This still is a fantastic idea. And I don't see any like this.
Yeah. So I'll tell you, the idea was, great. I actually started off building the product out. So because I came in from Anna University, back in Chennai, again, great, there were great friends of mine, who were geniuses in programming. So I got a few of them on board. I got a little bit of bootstrapping capital from my family, and I started building the product out. The only roadblock that I saw during the period of time before I started to jump onto my next venture was there was a lot of need for integrations with different companies, and a lot of these companies were not very open in sharing the data into a platform, and that too into a startup. So the data privacy issues was much larger, and they were only ready to share data with companies which were much bigger. So even though the problem existed, and there was there's still, I would say, there's still a big problem that would that still exists today. I think that was one of the biggest challenge that I faced. But actually, we built an MVP, and it's so funny. I was living in Manhattan, a very nice apartment building, and that's where I ended up meeting my current partner, Pablo. So the building was nice. We had a nice co-working space, within the building. So the people in the building could meet each other. And so, I'm a big chatterbox. So, I love to talk to new people. I love to know what they're doing. And I think trying to increase constantly, your knowledge about things that you don't know, right? So that's how, we were sitting at a table. Pablo is sitting on the other side, and I'm sitting on this side. So and we saw each other for a bunch of times, and he was working on his own company and I was working on mine, and it so happened that during one of the times that I was very bored of what I was building and I needed a break, right? So I ended up having a conversation with him. And we started to exchange, ideas and things like that. So fast forward, what happened was I was at a point where, I definitely wanted to raise external capital, and I already had a decent product. I had some angels who were ready to commit for the next round of capital, but I still needed a portion of capital that was still left that needed to be raised. So, at that point of time, I already had my financial deck, but it was just not, perfect. And it so happened that Pablo also came in from a financial background. He was working in a boutique investment bank, and he was building a biometric payments application at that point of time. So I said, hey, looks like you might have some extra time, and would you be able to help me put this deck together and make it look better? And and if you could do it, I didn't promise him any money, but I promised him some equity. So that's how it started, the entire barter system. When you have nothing, you still need to sell something, right? So for me, the only thing that I could sell at that point of time was equity. So yeah, I think
how we in this case was we can code in this time.
Yeah, exactly.
Now we can, the company we can.
Correct. So that's how the company started. The whole concept of being able to barter equity in exchange of sweat, right? So that's how it started. And basically how it started off was, we started going out, speaking with people, and coming from NYU. And he also had he was about to wind down his company because of an issue with his, with his existing, partner. So it was sort of timing, I would say.
Timing is everything.
Yeah, it's all about that, right? So, I think we were out there in the market trying to raise capital. We ended up meeting other entrepreneurs as well. And we were thinking about, and when we were having these conversations, trying to understand what is the kind of problem that they're, having, everyone kept saying, hey, technology is a nightmare. I don't know how to build it. I don't know, who to trust. I have very limited amount of capital. I need to get through this. And I've already been, screwed over once, twice. I need someone who I could work with, who has a skin in the game, right? So this was a continuous discussion that was coming up. So, and if you looked at that particular market, I would say the startups are the least underserved from a technology standpoint. And I'm saying early stage startups are the least underserved, because if you look at it, the options that they have is either they go hire an intern because they can't hire someone full time. It's expensive to keep them on the payroll. Or they go to a web or a design agency or a mobile agency in New York or somewhere in the US, which is extremely expensive, charging you $100 an hour. But on top of that, they actually build what you ask them to build, which, the biggest problems in a startup is you really don't know what you're building, because you know that the problem exists, but you actually don't know the exact product.
It's true.
To solve that particular problem. So, and that's what we call like product market fit today, right? So they could understand the problem, which is a problem market fit, but they might not understand a product which might solve that particular problem, which is the product market fit. So for that particular, so they had very limited options. They either had to spend $100, work with someone who didn't have, had no skin in the game, is constantly billing you. And if you look at their relationship, right, it is in some way toxic, because what happens is they bill you by the hour. There's no standard rates. Most of the times you get a surprise at the end of it. Even though if a startup has planned a particular budget, it never, falls within that budget, because you are given a scope and you keep changing the scope, and you don't know how much of time you've consumed during that particular process. So, or you work with someone else, you work with a freelancer, sitting somewhere else in the world. And basically, you are able to, work with this particular person. The only risk to that is you don't know when this person would suddenly disappear.
It's absolutely true, because and this is absolutely valid today. It's true that all this world of technology is like super sexy, but in the other hand, it's like a black box that you don't understand exactly how to play this role, what is the right company to hire. So, and I think that you have a huge opportunity in this market right now. And, with this pandemic, even better, because every single company that was working in the normal, in the real life, need to go the online. And
right.
I think it's going to be huge opportunity. So, and tell me something else. So at what time you started WeCan? 20 something?
Yeah, 2016, 17.
And right now you are?
As in how many years in?
Yeah, yes. How old are you?
29.
29. So you are 2 years older than me. And one question, when was your first time? Because I know that you have been very successful in this company, and you have, what is the biggest account that or the biggest success, exits that you had so far?
Yeah. So again, I think, I would say success is, has different definitions, to the space in which, we operate, right? So of course there is financial success. But apart from the financial success, I'll tell you both of them. Apart from the financial success, I think there is also a success of learning, which is extremely important, in the space in which we operate, because we are an accelerator, right? So just before I jump in, I'll give a quick 30 seconds about what WeCan is, right? So, WeCan is a product-focused accelerator, helping startups go from pre-seed to Series A in 12 to 18 months. We focus primarily on two major verticals. One is B2B and future of work. And apart from that, we also look at mobility. So for us, mobility is, logistics, auto, and travel. So those are the, big areas that we focus on. From a standpoint of, to answer, what our journey has been in the last few years, I think, one thing that I would say is we have had, 3 exits now. So, and it's definitely,
incredible. By the way, this is incredible. So,
yeah, thank you. So, and the exits primarily, have been Two of them have been to large organizations. One of it has been to Cox Auto, which is one of the largest, conglomerates in the United States. Cox used to, be a large media company. Then they transformed themselves into a large auto player. Now they're diversified into different businesses. They own like Autotrader.com. They own like Manheim, which is the largest auctioning, platforms. They own Kelly Blue Books. They're very diversified. They are over a $10 billion plus revenue company every year. So it's a company, which acquired one of our portfolio companies, which was in the mobile car cleaning space. So we were, Right Clean was one of our investments, which we exited to, Cox Auto, and we were primarily, delivering, mobile sanitization or car cleaning, and sanitization in today's, day and age, but mobile car cleaning, we basically bring a truck to you. We clean the car in, less than 30 minutes, and we also used a technology which used much less water than the regular car washes. So we were in about 5 states. We were cleaning in New York, for example. All of Zipcar was cleaned by us. All enterprise cars, both in New York, Philly, was cleaned by us. And we were in 5 states, and SF was one of the, big markets that we were operating in.
And I also want to not introduce, but express that you contacted me days ago to show me something that I believe is going to be incredible. There is a platform that is going to help, in fact, the world in this pandemic. But don't say anything yet, because I just want to show that as a good entrepreneur, you are not just always thinking in building a company, but also, as you said before, understand a need and try to bring a solution. And in this case, we are not talking about money. It's about helping people. So I love also this part. But I need to ask you some questions, Sathya, that at the end of the day, I'm going to compare with other people. So you said that you are 28, right?
29, yeah.
29. The first time, or what age you had when you win the first money? The first, I don't know, $1, whatever. At what age?
When did I make the first buck?
Exactly.
Let me think. 15.
15. And in doing what?
So this was it was a business development activity. So, I knew a friend, who could potentially, who was running another education institution. And considering that my parents were also coming from an educational, institutional background, I was able to land my dad a contract. And I was smart enough to, before I landed him a contract, I was smart enough to do a deal with him, saying that if you win it,
you started in a big world. So not just making pennies. You're making deals in big commission. Nice, I like it. Okay, and what was the first entrepreneurship that you had? So the first company or project or whatever you built.
Yeah, so I would definitely take the current company, or the company that I started off with, just after NYU, as one of my most efforts. So I would say 3-4 years ago.
Got it. What is your biggest success so far?
Well, it's a tricky question. So for me, the biggest success has been going from an idea stage company to an exit, and both the companies that we partnered up with, out of the 3 companies, the 2 companies, I led the investment round, into these companies, worked with them as a co-founding partner with both the companies. And both these companies, from idea stage to exiting to a large organization, is something that I treat as a success.
Super. The biggest failure?
Well, I think the biggest failure to me personally is not trying to give back as much as possible. And as you had mentioned, I always feel that it's never too late. So During this pandemic, as all of us have a lot of things going on, this is going to be our first corporate social responsibility project, which is focused on supporting people during this pandemic. So yeah, that I would say was one of the.
I'm sure it's going to be a big success. I already saw the deck, and I think it's fantastic. One question: how much money do you need to stop working, or is going to be a time when you're going to stop working, or?
I should say probably, to the time when, not able to count what I have in the bank, but no, joking. But so I think, again, I don't have a direct answer to it. I can tell you from a perspective, I don't think so. I'll retire, even if I'm, financially extremely successful. I think the urge to build something and the urge to to sort of solve problems is one of
this is a common answer, my friend. Every single entrepreneur is thinking in this way because they're having fun in what they're doing. Why do you want to stop if you're in your hobby, making the life? One question: the best advice that someone give you so far?
Well, the best advice that I would say from the mentors that I've gotten is never think that you can't learn from a person, whether this person is younger to you, is in a different field, is much older to you, is someone who's not even in the business world, could be someone working somewhere else. I think you can learn something from everyone. That's what I would say is one of the biggest learning advice, and that is something that I continue to do every day.
I like it. Do you have any guy or person that inspire you, a legend?
Not really.
Okay. How many days do you do workouts?
Well, I try to work out, every day, at least trying to be active.
It's another common thing. Do you eat healthy?
Well, I think I have transitioned myself to being more healthy. I think having a good body and a healthy body is very important for a healthy mind. So I've definitely transitioned myself from my college days to once I started my company.
100%. At what time do you go to sleep?
Well, I used to go to sleep around 11 and wake up around 5:36. But now, considering that we have a global business now, so you end up going to sleep to around
4 hours. I know. Yeah. Okay. One more question. People that you admire. There is someone that you admire?
Well, I think I admire a lot of people in different fields. I would definitely, say that even though Elon Musk is pretty crazy, I think we should give some credit to this guy that he's able to think far ahead from people and is able to bring dreams to reality. And actually, if you had looked at it, a lot of these different things is 5% idea, 95% execution. I think he's had that 5% and also had the 95% to back himself through his years. So definitely, he is someone that I think.
I didn't get the name. What is the name?
Elon Musk.
Elon Musk. Got it. Okay, one question. The best book, if you had to give an advice to the people that is listening, what is the book, just one, that you will advise to read?
Lean Startup.
Okay. And the last question, one advice for these people that is listening about this pandemic, what they should do. What is the advice that you give to the people that is listening about the pandemic?
I would say that, that we are all in the same boat. Stay positive and use this time to rebuild your company from the scratch. It's the time to rethink all your strategies that you had, put in on paper 3-4 years ago or even 6 months ago. It's a new world 2.0. So, figure out a way, to sustain and use this time to, rebuild and rebrand yourself.
I love what you said, and in fact, this kind of conversation are exactly for that, to inspire people to rethink what they're doing. It's a moment where everything stop. There is a perfect moment to rethink, redesign, and then when everything passes, I think we're soon to see that start with more power. Thank you very much, Satya. I love you, brother. So, and I'm gonna send you the link super soon. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ricardo. Thank you for having me here.
Take care, brother.